like most about, or what comes to mind when you think of the band Woo?
Woo. What comes to mind? I think the first thing that comes to mind is like the Badger's house from The Wind in the Willows, but if you were experiencing it in a K-hole. I think they're just sort of like whimsical, but also this weird, like falling through soup, kind of swimming through cough syrup kind of vibes. Like they just sort of were born out of a lily pad and are hanging out with their little fezzes and voluminous linen pants in their English countryside cottage making weird music.
So you like this band?
I love this band.
Hello VC, welcome to my presentation about the English experimental duo Woo. I've been talking this one up a bit, so here we are. Hope you enjoy this experimental approach at making this video. Who are Woo? So, it's Mark and Clive Ives, brothers, born in the mid-50s, Mark in 53, I think, Clive in 56, in South London. They came up at a time when getting into music with a lot of jazz and big band, but like everyone else at that time, the Beatles made a huge impact. And so listening to those, early songs, and then later the Beatles experiment with psychedelia, and the great songwriters that they were really influenced Woo to sort of be exploratory. Mark was the guitarist and reed player, mainly clarinet. Clive was sort of a self-taught percussionist and keyboardist, I guess. They, at some point during the 70s, they started getting into playing music at home and recording. And the big change, the big sort of like push forward to make them a recording duo known as Woo, was Mark getting a 4-track tape machine and Clive getting a synthesizer. And they ended up creating music that just feels exploratory and just so hard to sort of categorize in the most beautiful way. A lot of the recording they did was in the 70s and the early 80s. Took a break, and in the 90s they did some more music, and then took a break until about 2014 when there was sort of rediscovery of their music from a few different artists. Night Jewel was one of the big champions for Woo, but going back to the 70s, they made their first record, and I'm going to run through all the records later, but I'll show them in a second. And they were recording at home with this 4-track. Things like hearing Laurie Anderson and the Zombies and just modern approaches to songwriting really influenced them. The big breakthrough in the style that they have and the way it sounds, and the reason why it's so otherworldly and strange, was when they got, I forget what synthesizer it was, but when they realized they could export, or I should say output, Mark's guitar into an input in Clive's synthesizer. And what happened was Mark would play a certain chord structure and Clive could then tweak it and sort of control it and give it a sort of different rhythmic pulse. So it ended up creating this incredible immersion of sound that really no one else had done that I know of. And so it gives everything such a strange color and a beautiful shape and textural, very textural Woo is. They did get early press in '82 with their first release, Whichever Way You Are Going, You're Going Wrong. This is, like I said, I'll show these later, the original pressing on Sunshine series out of the UK. Their most beloved record is probably It's Cozy Inside from 1989. This is the US Independent Project Records, later reissued by Drag City in 2014. Then flash forward to 1990, this is their next release. First time issued on vinyl was, I think, this might have been in 2012, 2014 as well. 2014 was sort of a breakthrough, sort of re-emergence for the band. This was originally on cassette and issued by Emotional Rescue, yeah. This is called Into the Heart of Love. Maybe one of the another fan favorite. We're listening right now to the next record from 1982. The last one was from 1990. A la Luna. Also issued in 2014. Or reissued, I should say. Originally was a CD, I believe. No, this is from 2017. This is the first time on vinyl, as is the last one. Both of these out of print now, but keep a look. Also, this was another Drag City. Drag City did the reissue of It's Cozy Inside, and this archival release, When the Past Arrives, which featured 70s sort of unused recordings that they later came back to and finished in the 80s. Here's another one. This one with the Palto Flats label around the same time. This was 2015, actually. Awa. There's that Woo logo that you see and everything. There they are. This is from 2020. A new release. This was new music. Arcturian Corridor. And this one from 2022. Excellent. I like this one better than the last one, actually. Paradise in Pimlico. As we hear more of A la Luna. So just a really cool group. I have this in front of me here with an interview with Clive Ives, talking about the descriptors for their music. Here are some of the things that have been written about us. Here are some descriptors: oddly dubby, mesmeric, insular, playful, undefinable, instantly recognizable, warm, romantic, optimistic, ethereal, timeless, pop music for another universe, time-locked into the spirit of 67, certainly a psychedelic quality, witty yet quintessentially British, futuristic elevator muzak. And here's some of the genres we've been given: experimental, soft jazz, psychedelic, lo-fi, folktronica, new age, avant-garde, armchair ambient, hypnagogic pop, krautrock, kosmish, and healing music. So as you can see, the diversity of what they do just lends itself to something different, and it really feels like it's improvised. It's sort of all composed in the moment. The brothers Ives would sort of, in early on in the 70s, early 80s, they were sort of alone, recording in an apartment. They would do it late at night, and they had to be quiet. Like a lot of this stuff, was being directly. It wasn't amplified, but they couldn't really be too loud, avoid the neighbor below them sort of complaining. And so that sort of lends itself to the music, a sort of patience and hushed quality and sort of, quieted beauty, I suppose. And yeah, they literally were playing to each other, it felt like, and really, I think literally were, as Mark would play his guitar through the sequencer, the synthesizer of Clive, and then, of course, overdubbing clarinet, different percussion. Anyway, mostly not vocal. There is usually like one vocal track on each record, so I love this group, obviously. I have just about all the vinyl records. I'm missing one, which is going to be on its way soon. And then another split with the band Seahawks. I don't have that yet, but I encourage you to check out this band, and we'll get into the records, you'll hear music, and you'll hopefully have a grand old time with the music of Woo. This is another record by Woo. It's called Arcturian Corridor. So the story with this record was released in 2019, and it's based on the Arcturian star, the fourth brightest star in the sky. And it's known as the star that brings and shines down light of peacefulness and beauty and serenity. Typical Woo stuff. Actually, this is from 2020 on the Quimby label again. There it is, Cosmic. And it features that 20-minute track, or Arc 1 through 5, all the Arcturian corridor, again, that's creased there. And it features some remixes on the other side. But once again, Mark and Clive on electronics, and very a lot of drum programming on this one. This one has a certain electronic feel to it. And not my favorite, but interesting. I like the remixes. 3 remixes on the other side by Wino Wagon, Ultramarine, and Woo doing a remix of Love on Other Planets, which is from the album from 1990, Into the Heart of Love. But you have Larry Lloyd taking part on this one too, guitar and actual. It's Woo again, Arcturian Corridor on the Quimby label. The number 3, thumbs up. How you doing?
Great.
This is Woo's A La Luna. Silkscreen, reissued by Emotional Rescue in 2014. Originally released in 1991 on CD only. Once again, the Ives brothers, Mark and Clive, really making small vignettes this time, with one vocal piece, Magic in the Dark, sung by Mark, who of course does clarinet and guitar. And it all plays like one beautiful, seamless record, but they're all small pieces on this one. Another one of sort of a, this along with Into the Heart of Love are sort of fan favorites, I would say. And it's just the band, it's just the two. There's 2 beautiful dudes in England making music late night, just looking to each other's eyes, playing off each other, brothers, in their little hats. I love these guys, and this album is beautiful. It's just another one of the essential Woo records that you should have. Reissued by Emotional Rescue. Just another dazzling effort by the brothers Ives. A La Luna. Another Woo record. This is When the Past Arrives, released by Drag City. This is an archival record. It features the brothers Ives going back into their archives and recontextualizing tapes that they made in the 70s. Again, using those same processes, recording things through the synthesizer, guitar through the synthesizer, woodwinds, clarinet through the synthesizer. It's spectacular stuff. Earliest 1976, but it's made, I think even earlier than that. But you have stuff from the early 80s here too. When the Past Arrives, on the Drag City label, still very much available. Featuring a little bit of vocals, tracks like Glip Glop, Distant Consequences, Free Will, Teddy Bears. Track names always sound like what the music actually is. Lots of synthesizer, beautiful otherworldliness. Another beautiful record by Woo, When the Past Arrives, on the Drag City label. Here we have Woo's 1982 first record. Whichever way you are going wrong. This is the original pressing
on the independent project room, I believe it is. It's kind of a private pressing, I believe. Has been reissued. Actually, no, it's the Sunshine series. The second album is the independent project. But this is Woo. I mean, a classic. This is sort of like the most progressive sort of art rock. I wouldn't call it art rock. Ambient dub. Just, beautiful late night cosmic tales. This was actually taken from an original children's story, and it's sort of meant to actually be a positive note, says the brothers Ives, that, hey kid, we're trying to help you, go this way, don't get lost. It's not meant to be a negative thing, I guess. And that's the thing about Woo's music. It's uplifting without being corny. It's always sort of meant to breathe life, I think. And this has some of their most sort of, I think this would appeal to sort of psychedelic folks, those psych folks out there. It breathes and sort of, it's entrancing. But it's them, it's the Ives brothers. It's again, guitars being played through synthesizers, Mark and Clive playing off each other, recording in their flat in London. Released in '82, but recorded in the '70s, like much of their music. Whichever way you're going, you're wrong. Hopefully this gets reissued again. There was an Emotional Rescue reissue of this, which has been long out of print. So, stunning record. Mark Ives, guitars, bass, clarinet, vocals, the pixophone, percussion, and of course Clive is doing most of the keyboards. And like a lot of records, there is one vocal track on this with Clive singing. So, a lovely record. Woo, Paradise in Pimlico, a 2019 record and their most recent record of new recordings, released on the Quindy label and produced by Nicolo Daniel Rufo. A surprising but wonderful return from the Ives brothers. So much of their music is archival and comes from various old tapes. This one does not. And they're bringing in continuous experimentation and continuous reinvention on this record. What I love is how much this is really becoming sort of like a modern day ambient, and still crossing the lines with electronica somehow too. That's all sort of always part of the Woo sort of like approach. Merging different ideas, but none of it ever feels contrived or forced. It always just feels like it feels very natural where they come from. Paradise in Pimlico, I think this has either been repressed or you can still find it pretty reasonable, but I think it did sell out initially. Actually released in 2021 on the Quindy label. Very, modern sounding, but still like an all Woo record. Sounds like it could have come out at any time. Woo, Paradise in Pimlico. Alright, well, it was pretty windy there that day, so the audio was not usable. I'm going to do a voiceover to tell you about Into the Heart of Love, from 1990, originally a cassette only. The Emotional Rescue label put it back, or put it on vinyl for the first time, and that's what we have here. And it's actually one of their best records. It includes some of their most intimate, lovely, and sweet and touching songs. The Frogs Fandango, on this video you'll see it, certainly will fry your brain a little bit. Make Me Tea, very sweet vocal piece, very psychedelic too, and just woozy, and just a lovely piece by Woo, Into the Heart of Love. Don't know if this one's still available. It's definitely not still available. You'll have to look for this one. Hopefully they'll repress it, but from 1990, that's what we have here, Into the Heart of Love. It's Cozy Inside, the 1989 album by Woo. Clive and Mark's most revered record, probably. There they are, or there's, I think, Clive. That's Mark. This is on the Independent Project label, reissued by Drag City recently. And this is them in their classic mode. I think this music was recorded actually in the 80s. Here's the wonderful insert with them in their hats. Gotta love it. And this is just them at the pinnacle of this new age psychedelia, ambient, post-punk, space jazz. I mean, it's really is the meeting of all those things, and it's cozy inside. That's why I'm here. The cover actually represents all these funny little images. It does make me feel cozy, but it's different song titles like Purple Pussy, Upside Down, Final Card, No More Telly. You see things like the television. I think this is supposed to be their parent or their mom yelling at them. That's somewhere in here on these titles. But it's Mark, guitars, clarinet, bass, and voices. Clive, electronics, percussion, and violin. Just, some bands were coming to mind as I was thinking about this one. Cluster, Penguin Cafe Orchestra, even like bands like Animal Collective. It's cozy inside. I hope you find this record to be cozy, like I am here under my daughter's bed. Woo! Awa! An album from 2014 featuring recordings from 1975 to 1982. Just another magical time capsule with the Ives brothers. There they are. More archival goodness that they rescue from their own little vault, their magical vault. They always have records and recordings to give us. But yeah, I think it's Awa. The blue logo's in place. This one was released on the Palto Flats label. Some cool stuff on that label. It's just more magical, whimsical bliss from the brothers Woo, aka Clive and Mark Ives. Great if you loved It's Cozy Inside. What I like most about Woo, I don't know, it just feels like anything can happen at any moment. The music is so sort of from the heart, and it's cozy for sure. And I love that it doesn't really sound like any one genre. It just feels like these guys are sort of improvising and feeling each other off the moment, and it's just such heartwarming, sort of soulful music. The Ives brothers seem to know what each other's going to do after, at each step. Coffee. And it just feels timeless, like it could have come from any time or a different planet. It's beautiful, it's weird, it's strange. It's really everything, and I love that where do you put it? Where do you categorize woo? I think all the records offer something interesting. I just think you need to dive in and just sort of sit back and relax in your chair. You know, get out there a little bit too, because they're out there. And I hope there's more music. And yeah, I think woo is for everyone, not just for any kind of genre or any kind of listener. It's just real heart-warming, strange music.